Welcome back to the Traveling Templar channel. Today's video concerns the powers, duties, and responsibilities of the Grand Commandery according to Grand Encampment law. To clarify, I'm not going to cover every section or analyze every word of the Constitution. I'm going to give a brief overview of the Grand Encampment's Constitution, statutes, and decisions that are relevant to the powers of the Grand Commandery and its officers. A Grand Commandery is subordinate to the Grand Encampment and has no authority to override Grand Encampment law, nor can a Grand Commandery's constitution and bylaws be in conflict with Grand Encampment. The Grand Encampment has several sections dedicated to just the Grand Commandery and its elected officers. For those interested, the portion of the Grand Encampment Constitution that deals specifically with the Grand Commandery starts at Section 33 and goes until Section 56. Section 33 establishes how a Grand Commandery is formed and, with Section 34, what their jurisdictional territory is. A Grand Commandery isn't just the officers and committees appointed. The real power of the Grand Commandery is the voting members and representatives of the constituent commanderies. Section 35 of the Constitution of the Grand Encampment establishes the membership criteria, specifically that the Dias officers and past commanders of its constituent commanderies form the membership of the Grand Commandery. Section 36 establishes the types of conclaves held by a Grand Commandery. Specifically, the Grand Commanderies must have a stated conclave once each year and can convene special conclaves upon the written request of a majority of its commanderies. Within a single department, only one Grand Commandery can be convened at one given time. Section 37 establishes the quorum of the conclaves. Section 38 establishes the conduct and voting during such conclaves. Section 39 states that decisions of the Grand Commander may be appealed to the Grand Commandery, and Section 40 allows for Grand Commanderies to establish proxy voting and how it is regulated. As a side note on voting, within Templary, it is always one knight, one vote. If a knight carries a vote in his own right in the Grand Commandery, he cannot carry a proxy vote for another, such as an absent commandery officer. Section 41 lays out the powers and duties of the Grand Commandery. Generally speaking, the Grand Commandery has legislative powers, the ability to create constituent commanderies and the regulation of them, financial powers and responsibilities, regulatory authority of Templar uniforms, and administrative and legal duties. It also has limitations placed on it, including the fact that a Grand Commandery cannot limit the Grand Commander's dispensation powers. Section 42 establishes how to appeal to the Grand Master. Jurisprudence and legislative inquiries should be taken to the Grand Commander first. Direct appeals to the Grand Master are not permitted if intermediate levels are bypassed. Only unsatisfactory decisions by the Grand Commander or Grand Commandery can be appealed to the Grand Master. Section 43 establishes the officers of the Grand Commandery. Section 44 sets the term of office for the officers. Section 45 gives the eligibility of office. And Section 46 contains the vow of office that each Grand Commandery officer must take when they are installed. Section 47 is a preamble for the powers of the officers that will follow. Sections 48 through 52 outline the duties of the elected officers, Grand Commander in Section 48, Deputy Grand Commander in Section 49, Grand Generalissimo and Grand Captain General in Section 50, Grand Treasurer in Section 51, and Grand Recorder in Section 52. Section 48 outlines the specific powers and duties of the Grand Commander. He has supervision over all commanderies within the jurisdictional territory of his Grand Commandery. This jurisdictional territory is established in Section 34 of the Constitution. He ensures compliance with the Constitution, statutes, rules, regulations, and rituals of the Grand Encampment and Grand Commandery. He appoints all committees and officers not elected, and fills all vacancies of any office. He issues dispensations to form commanderies under specific terms. He can arrest the charter or dispensation of a commandery or place it under probation until the next annual conclave. He can suspend any officer of the Grand or Constituent Commandery from office. He holds stated conclaves per the Constitution and special conclaves as requested. And he conducts official visitations for inspection or evaluation of each constituent commandery and reports his findings at the next conclave. There is a clear line of succession for the elected officers and how to fill vacancies of elected officers within the Constitution of the Grand Encampment. The Deputy Grand Commander acts as the Grand Commander if the Grand Commander is absent or unable to perform the duties. For the Grand Generalissimo and Grand Captain General, in the absence or removal of their superiors, they assume command of the Grand Commandery. They will also have duties as given to them by the Grand Commander to perform. Section 53 states that in the event that none of the 4 elected officers are capable of governing or presiding, the junior past Grand Commander will assume the office and duties of Grand Commander. If the junior past Grand Commander is incapacitated, the next ranking past Grand Commander assumes the role. Section 54 covers the titles of the Grand Commandery, which were partially discussed in my last video. Section 55 sets the precedence of rank within the Grand Commandery, and Section 56 concerns the consolidation of Grand Commanderies. You can also find many of these duties listed again in other sections of the Constitution, like Section 147B further talks about the powers of a Grand Commandery to create new commanderies within its jurisdictional territory. Another example, even though previously discussed, talks about how elections must be held at the annual conclave. Section 136, 137, and 138 allows for a Grand Commandery to establish the procedures of how its officers are elected, how nominations are made, if allowed, and the votes needed for election. You will also find nuggets of information in other sections, particularly in those concerning the commanderies, as Grand Commandery has supervision over its constituent commanderies. If you are a Grand Commandery officer or even a Dias officer of your local commandery, it is wise for you to read through the Constitution, statutes, and decisions of the Grand Encampment to understand how our honorable institution works. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and you can also follow me on X, Instagram, and Facebook.